Hello friends, today we are gonna learn about the JSON ignore and JSON ignore properties. So uh, the purpose of these two annotations which we have is to ignore certain fields. And when to ignore the certain fields? When we are serializing an object to JSON, or like when we are reverting it back from JSON string to object, and by using the Jackson 2.x version. So this class is for how to ignore certain fields, and using the JSON ignore and JSON ignore properties we are gonna look into that. So if you see here JSON ignore, this can be used on fields or getters or setters to ignore individual properties. And JSON ignore properties is this annotation can be used to ignore multiple properties with one declaration on class. So what does that mean? If you are declaring this annotation on the class level, so whatever the fields that class has, all the fields is going to be ignored. And at JSON ignore we use on field level, so individual properties can be ignored. Okay, there is one more thing, that is JSON ignore properties, and here we can have like attributes ignore equal to true. This is used to ignore a JSON property if it is not defined in the POJO. That means some fields which is not defined in the JSON property, that can be completely ignored when we are serializing. So we will see that these all the three properties, uh, all the three annotation when I am going to show the when I am going to write the code. And we will need this dependency in our pom.xml. This is a jackson-databind. So this allows to convert for the conversion of JSON to object and object to JSON. So that we are gonna see. Okay, let's start the coding part now. Okay, so we have written the basic code. One is employee class, has three fields: name, department, and address. And we got the getter and setter, and there is a return type. There is a toString method which returns the employee object with the details. So now let's suppose we will go first the JSON ignore. We want to ignore the uh, address field. Before that, let me just first go through this one, what we are doing. So we are setting one, we are creating one object with some details. So after this, we have written two methods. One is for conversion to JSON, and other one is to converting from JSON to object. One is from object to JSON and other one is from JSON to JSON to object. And one more, this one is the, but I will tell you about this later. And then we have both the method. So let's run this one and we will see what exactly the outputs are. Okay, so first one, this output is we are getting from here, right? So if you see here, what we are doing, we are converting this employee object to JSON string, right? How we are converting? We are calling this to JSON. So if you see here, what we are doing, we are creating object mapper, and there is a method. If we pass the employee object, it will convert it into the JSON string. So if you see the JSON string, name, department, address, all three things we have here, right? Now second one is converting from object to JSON, right? Sorry, converting from JSON to object. So now we have a JSON string. Okay, this is the JSON string here, and now we want to convert it into the object, right? So when we are passing, now if you see this to employee, right, we are passing that JSON string here. Now we want to convert it into the object. So this is a read value method. If you pass the JSON string and whatever the object you want to map, that class you have to pass, so this will get. Okay, so here let's put the one sys out here also. Okay, now this is employee 2. Now let's run it and then we will see. Okay, first one we know the output. Second one is the employee object we are getting by passing the JSON. Okay, now here we are passing the JSON string and we want to convert it into the object. So by this way, by read value, we are converting it into the object, and we are passing the JSON string and object name. Sorry, the class name, and it is getting converted. So if you see here, this is the object. Now third one we have like right now ignore this one what is written here. If you see this, this is the way we write the JSON string. So this is actually a JSON string which holds value name as Trish, and then let's do is let's write the address, and then we will write the department also. So let's do that department as admin, and this will be address as something, right, avenue this time, just to make it a little bit different. So the third one, this is the JSON string, and we got the JSON output, right? This is simply we are just writing it. This is the JSON output, and now when we are passing this is a JSON string. We are passing the JSON string into the conversion part, like converting it into the employee object. So we got this one as it is, right? Trish, admin, and 3825 avenue. Now we will see actually the how ignore properties works here. So let's first check the JSON ignore. Okay, so JSON ignore is on the address field. So now what should be the output? If we see, the first output should not have the address one, right? So let's run it. See, now we do not have the address field here in the JSON string. So that got completely ignored, right? And if you see the conversion part, converting from JSON string to, when this is the JSON string, right? When we are converting from JSON string to employee object, as we have written the @ of JSON ignore, this address value is coming as a null. So it has ignored the address value. And now in JSON output, this one is the uh, new JSON string which we are creating by own. So if you see here also, this field has got ignored. That means, though, if because we have named it as a address, so it is automatically getting mapped, and JSON ignore property works on this also, right? Now we will go to the next one on the JSON ignore properties on class level. Okay, JSON ignore properties, right? Now if you see here, and if I run this one, then we will see right now everything is coming. Now you have to specifically mention that which class field you want to ignore. Let's suppose you want to ignore name, department, and address. Let's suppose only 2. Okay, so now we want to ignore the two values, right? So that one, how we can do will work now. Okay, so now we are ignoring name and department fields. So let's run this one. You see only address field is coming, and in everywhere this name and department field is getting this place name and department is coming as a null, right? And in JSON string that is completely ignored. Okay, now these two things we have seen. Now there is a third one, that is JSON ignore properties, and where we are mentioning as a ignore unknown equal to true. So let's write it down. Same thing, JSON ignore unknown true. So here what we want to see, actually the field which is not available, that should be ignored. So let's create here, let's write it here. Instead of address, let's write is. Okay, and then if I run this one, see address is coming as a null, because if you see this part, we have not mentioned here address. So address is coming as a null, but as we have like a completely different field name, that is age, that is getting ignored here, right? So it is not throwing the error. Let's suppose if you just comment it out, and if you do not mention the ignore unknown equal to true, then what will happen? See, it is throwing error, right? Because it is trying to map this is field with the employee object, but employee object doesn't have the age field, right? So then we are getting this exception, unrecognized field is where in the employee object, not marked as ignore. So they are just giving information to ignore that one. So now here itself you can make it as a ignore, I think. No, let's do it in the different way. Value equal to this, and then it should work. Okay, Now we have like name and department field we are ignoring, and any unknown field which is not present in any in the object, and we are trying to map it, then that will also getting ignored. So both facility we want here, right? So let's run it now. See, there is no error, and here we see the name and department is getting ignored, and the age field which we are trying to map here with the employee object, as that is not present in the employee object, that field is not there, but we have mentioned that ignore unknown equal to true, so we do not see any, that is getting ignored, and we do not see any exception. So this is how we can use all these three um, annotation. So you can try, and thank you very much. I will come up with the new topic.